Welcome back to a brand new Civ 6 or Civilization 6 video. In this video, we're going to be tier listing every unique unit in Civilization 6. Let me know down below any changes you would make for this list. And as always, if you do enjoy, leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on future content. Without further ado, let's get started. The first unique unit is the Ottoman Barbary Corsair. Now, it is 40 production cheaper from the regular privateer unit it replaces, a little bit lower gold maintenance cost, and uses no movement to perform coastal raids. I'm going to be ranking every unique unit based on how good they are for that specific civilization. For the Barbary Corsair, it can be very good on an archipelago map, but damn near useless everywhere else. Next up is the Norwegian Berserker. Now, the Berserker gets 2 movement in enemy territory, 10 combat strength when attacking, and -5 combat strength when defending against melee attacks, as well as 3 more combat strength than usual. I'm going to go ahead and put the Norwegian Berserker all the way up in the S tier. The Man-at-Arms is already a very strong unit. This is pretty much a Man-at-Arms with the movement speed of a horseman on steroids. The next unique unit is the Byreme. Now, the Byreme prevents friendly traders within 4 tiles of being plundered as long as they're on a water tile. It has more combat strength and movement speed than a regular galley, but early on, especially on a naval map, naval units really are not going to be effective until you get frigates, so even though it's a little stronger, it really is a glorified trader protector, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the C tier. Next up is the Black Army, and despite being a whopping 5 production more expensive, literally unbuildable, it is very, very effective. 3 combat strength for each adjacent levied unit as Hungary is easy to get, and the higher base combat strength will allow you to be a lot stronger than usual. It's going to go in the S tier because the levied units are very easy to get, and you'll easily be able to one-shot damn near everything with the Black Army. The Swedish Caroline is going to go in the C tier above the Byreme. It has extra movement speed and combat strength per unused movement, but it's still a pike and shot replacement, so even with that, they are still going to be damn near useless 90% of the time. The Conquistador is next. It's going to go all the way in the high B tier. 10 combat strength when escorting a religious unit is very effective, with a little extra combat strength at the cost of being more expensive. This unit is very effective for the Spanish, but by no means is it an amazing unique unit. The Russian Cossack gets extra combat strength and a lot extra combat strength when next to its home territory and can move after attacking. Really not very good for the most part. It's going to go right above the Caroline in my opinion. It's just not a very good offensive unit, and for defense, you might as well just build more ranged units. The Crouching Tiger is the worst unique unit in the entire game, and it isn't even close. The one range is not made up for by the extra combat strength. You're still going to get destroyed by cavalry and swordsman type units. It's just all around a bad unit for defense and for offense. Next up is the De Zeven Provinciën with the Dutch. I definitely said that wrong. It has 7 ranged combat strength against districts, as well as being stronger than a regular frigate. Frigates are pretty strong in general. I'll put this guy all the way in the A tier, I think. Very effective for sure, especially when sieging down districts. The Australian Digger gains combat strength when near the coast and when near Australian territory, but the biggest thing about it is it costs no oil to build, unlike regular infantry, meaning you can build as many of them as you want and overwhelm the enemy with numerical superiority, essentially recreating the Soviets in World War II. The Domri is a stronger trebuchet that exerts zone of control and can attack after moving, all of which fix almost every problem a bombard type unit has. Because of that, I'm going to put it ahead of the Digger in the A tier, a very effective trebuchet medieval era siege unit. The Droman is a naval menace, giving extra combat strength against units of land and sea origins. It really sucks against city, especially being a 1-2 range quadrireme replacement. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the high C tier. It's good against naval units, but it really shouldn't be built in mass unless you're trying to defend yourself. Eagle Warrior goes straight up in the high A tier. 8 extra combat strength and turning captured units into builders will allow you to destroy enemy cities and economies at the same time. A very good early ancient era rush unit. Gai Satai is a low C tier type of unit, right under the Caroline in my opinion. The combat strength against higher combat foes really only helps against spearmen and war carts, as everything else will still be a lot stronger than you. The combat against district defenses is nice, but it's 50% more expensive, meaning you'll be making a lot less bang for your buck when building these guys. My favorite unique unit to announce, the Garde Imperiale, gives you great general points from kills and combat strength on your home continent, and a little extra combat strength. It's going to go in the A tier right under the Domri, a very effective unit, although it does require some RNG to have some people on your home continent. The Hitoroi is the weaker of the Macedonian unique units. 5 combat strength with a great general and great general points from kills is great, as is the free promotion. We'll go ahead and put it in the super high B tier. You do need a great general, but after you get one, these guys can destroy damn near everything until walls become a problem. I made a mistake earlier. The Highlander is the worst unit in the game. Rangers are pretty trash units, and the difference between that and the Highlander is that you get combat strength when defending on hills and forests. Still super weak in that stage of the game, and they're just the worst unit in the entire game. The Hoplite is next, with extra combat strength per adjacent Hoplite, and just a boost to combat strength in general. Another unit that's going to go above the Hitoroi in the high B tier. They still struggle against swordsman units especially, but keep 2 adjacent at all times and you'll destroy everyone in your path. If only they could make use of a classical era great general. The Mayan Holche is next. It does replace the Archer, and it has extra combat strength and even more against damaged units. It's going to go in the low A tier. Archers are strong in general. The Holche is just a steroided up archer. The Hungarian Wingless Hussar is next, and it is going to go in the low D tier above the Boat Byreme unit. It gets combat strength for every active alliance, but that doesn't mean much because as Hungary, you're already going to have the entire world hating you from your earlier game conquests. It really is not that different of a unique unit from the regular cavalry. The Hwaka is the Korean field cannon replacement, giving it a lot lower production cost, although at the cost of combat strength. It is cheaper to maintain as well, but they can't attack after moving. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here in the B tier. It's a decent unit, and you can spam a lot of them out, but it is limited in offensive capabilities. The Hypaspist is next for Macedon, getting extra combat strength against districts, and a higher support bonus when defending. It's pretty effective considering that it is still a swordsman replacement with higher combat strength. We're going to go ahead and put it, I think, right above the Hoplite in the B tier. Very strong unit to have, and with the Hitoroi you can cause a lot of damage. The Immortal is next. This is a little bit of a weaker swordsman with a very strong ranged attack, and because of that, I'm going to go ahead and put it at the top of the S tier. Swordsmen are already pretty damn strong, and ranged attacked swordsmen are almost unstoppable. One of the best, if not the best, unique unit in the entire game. The Impy is the only anti-cavalry replacement going into the A tier, I think below the Dutch boat unit. It's literally half as cheap, gaining a lot more experience, more flanking bonuses, and cheaper to maintain. Spam these guys out, which is easy to do, and you'll have the world conquered in no time. The Janissary costs half as much production as a regular musketman, is stronger, and gets a free promotion, with the downside being building it in one of your settled cities requires 1 population. It is going in the S tier, right below the Immortal in my opinion. Very strong and very easy to spam out, especially in conquered cities. The Jong is going to go in the lower A tier, right above the Digger, a frigate replacement with no strategic resource cost, more movement, and extra combat strength when in a formation, making it very effective on a Renaissance-era water map. The Mongolian Keshig has high movement speed and the same attack strength as a crossbowman, making it a very fast, strong, ranged unit. It can't move after attacking, and you do have to hard build it, so that is kind of a drawback. All in all, I am going to put it right below the Zulu Impy. Very strong, although the problem is you do have to hard build these guys each and every time. The Kevsar goes in the low B tier. It has no movement penalty when going on hills, and extra combat strength on hills. Not the best unique unit, although the Man-at-Arms is still a really good regular unit, so Kevsar is going to get the low B tier regardless. The Legion gains 5 extra combat strength and a build charge to either chop out woods or to build a Roman fort. Because of that, I am going to put it right above the Aztec Warrior in the high A tier, the best classical era unique unit, and being able to chop out anything and even more legions makes it a very strong unit. The Llanero gains 3 combat strength for every adjacent Llanero that Gran Colombia has, as well as healing whenever you pop a Comandante General, making it a very effective unit for the era. We'll put it right above the Zulu Impi, as it can be devastating in the hands of Gran Colombia with 6 movement speed. The Malone Rider gains extra combat strength when near your own territory, as well as extra pillage costs, so after taking the first city from the enemy having a friendly border nearby, you will be extremely effective, although getting that first city is the harder part. We'll put it in the very highest of B tiers, decently effective if you know what you are doing, but especially with the pillage costing just 1 movement. The Mamluk is a knight that heals every turn even if it does move or attack, so it is pretty effective for the most part, although knights aren't as strong as they were before. We'll put it in the low-ish A tier right below the Jong. Mandakalu Cavalry protect trader units within 4 tiles, and every time you defeat an enemy, you gain gold equal to its combat strength, making it very effective at swelling your gold reserves. Because of that, we'll put it right below the Holche, I think, in the A tier. Not very combat effective, more than a knight, but giving you an insane amount of gold and trader protection. The Mariano Chariot Archer has extra combat strength and move speed when starting on flat open terrain. It's too expensive to build a lot of the time though, especially as a floodplain start that Egypt usually gets, meaning you won't have a lot of production in the first place. It's going to go in the high C tier because it really is too expensive most of the time. The Minas Gerias is essentially a battleship unlocked an era earlier with culture, meaning it's going straight up in the S tier. Getting a battleship a whole era earlier means you will be able to devastate everybody. That is nothing short of insane. The Canadian Mountie is really just a unit you build to get more national parks. I don't really know, it's definitely not a very good combat unit, but the national parks does help Canada out a lot, so I will split the difference and just put them above the Kevsar in the B tier. The Portuguese now isn't on here, but we'll rank them as if they are. It is pretty much just to build Portugal's Vitoria in enemy cities. A Caravel replacement, so again, like the Mountie, combat strength not the best, but it does provide another purpose. So we'll put it right under the Mountie in the B tier or above, depending on the given day. The Gaumbiba can see and move through forest and rainforest, and gain 10 combat strength when defending against ranged attacks, making them a very effective unit for the Congo, and we'll put them right below the Garde Imperiale in the A tier. The Okitikla is a warrior combat strength equivalent of a scout unit for the Cree, and they also get a free promotion when starting out. It'll go in the middle of the B tier as they can't really upgrade to anything good because they're a scout line unit, but they are pretty effective for early exploration and defense. The Oromo Cavalry gains extra movement when going on hills, as well as extra sight and movement speed than the Corsair. Because of that, it'll go in the lowish B tier, right below the Kevsar in my opinion. Not the best unit, but still decently effective. The P-51 Mustang is essentially a fighter that's better at dogfighting and gains more experience. Really not the best unique unit. I'll put it right below the Geisatai in the C tier. Very much just comes too late in the game to make too big of a difference. Bitati Archer is a Nubian unique unit, getting extra movement speed and combat strength compared to a regular archer. Straight up in the S tier, I'll put right above. I'll put him as actually the best unique unit in the game. Any of the top 3 could be changed at any given moment, but they are so strong and come so early on that you could dominate the early game as Nubia. The English Redcoat costs no movement to disembark and extra combat strength on foreign continents. A little bit stronger. It's pretty much the opposite of the Garde Imperiale, although I'd rather have great generals than disembarking costs, so it'll go right under them in the A tier. The Rough Rider is next for America, gaining culture on kills and combat strength on hill tiles. All in all, it's kinda decent. Like the Mountie, it does serve a different purpose, so we'll put it right actually above the Okitikla. The Babylonian Saboom Kibitum isn't on here anyways. They gain combat strength against enemy units that are cavalry, and they do have higher movement speed, but they have a really weak base combat strength, meaning they're not effective in the early game against warriors or spearmen. I'd put them right below the Droman in the C tier, probably below the Cossack actually. The Saka Horse Archer goes above the Crouching Tiger in the D tier. Despite the fact it has more movement speed than a regular archer, it still only has one range, making it a liability unless you can one-shot enemy units. Not suffering combat penalties when damaged and 3 extra combat strength gives the Samurai a spot in the A tier, right below the Digger, I'd say. Being able to attack at 1 strength just as well at full strength is very effective, but it isn't anything too game-breaking. The English Sea Dog can actually capture enemy naval units, which can be very effective, as well as being a little stronger than a regular privateer, giving it a place in the A tier again, right above the Jong, I would say. The Byzantium Tagma is going to go ahead in the S tier. I'd put it right below the Janissary. It is a knight replacement that acts as a great general to adjacent units, allowing you to dominate and tear down walls as Byzantium. The Toa is a Maui unique unit, reducing enemies adjacent to use combat strength by about 5. They can use a build charge to clear terrain or construct a PA, but they are a little bit more expensive, although don't cost strategic resources. All in all, we'll go in the A tier right below the Halcha. The German U-boat gains extra sight, lower production, no resource maintenance, and combat strength on blue ocean tiles. All in all, not really the best, as it's focused on killing enemy units on ocean tiles, which the AI is usually too stupid to use anyway. We'll put them in the low B tier though, because they can be effective if the AI somehow has a navy. The Indian Varu, despite being expensive, does reduce enemy combat strength nearby by about 5. Essentially the same thing as the Toa. It's still pretty expensive though. All in all, we'll put them right below the Hoplite in the B tier. The Viking Longship is next. It is pretty effective, being able to be built in the early game, as well as gain extra movement speed and combat strength to a galley. It can perform coastal rage, which is really nice, but it really isn't that effective aside from raiding. So again, it's going to go in the B tier, I think, right above the U-boat. The Voishan isn't on this list, but it does gain extra combat strength, movement speed, sight, and is only a little more expensive, getting the ability to move after attack for Vietnam. All in all, I'd probably put them right below the Hypaspist, right below the Hoplite in the beat, right above the Hypaspist actually. They are a crossbowman replacement. The Sumerian War Cart is the strongest ancient era unit in the game, with extra movement speed when starting on flat terrain, and no combat penalty against spearmen. Not the best unique unit, although you can make some nice rushes if you go earlier on. I'll put them at right below the Hypaspist, right below the Hoplite, I'll put them right below the Varu in the B tier. The Warcock is an Incan skirmisher replacement that can attack twice in 1 turn. It only has a range of 1, which kind of sucks, but it can still be very, very effective, especially with the higher combat strength. As a defensive unit, it's A tier, but it's a C tier offensive unit. I'll go ahead and put them right below the Varu in the B tier. Before we rank the Winged Hussar, if you do enjoy, leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on future content. And as always, let me know down below how you would change any of these rankings. Finally, the Winged Hussar pushes enemies back if it does more damage when attacking than it takes from the defender. Enemies that can't be pushed back take additional damage, and as always, they ignore zone of control. Pretty strong and unique unit, and for that, I'm going to put it right above the Mandakalu Cavalry in the A tier, and without further ado, I will see you all in the next video. Peace.